Reddit, what is a lie you have told for so long that you aren't sure whether or not it is actually true? That I went fishing with Punky Brewster when I was 9. I grew up with a family that really never did anything. Our only vacation consisted of driving 2 hours to see Benny Hinn, where my mother was cured of cancer she was never diagnosed with. My mother and father divorced when I was 5, and she was clinically depressed. We were occasionally homeless. I never had any toys. Life was not fun in my earlier years. Once a month my father would pick me up and take me back to his farm in Iowa. He worked with Punky Brewster's aunt and he mentioned that she came to visit every summer and maybe we could go fishing with her. As with children who don't receive much consideration, this never happened. He did however get me a signed photo. I spent many hours staring at this photo imagining our fishing trip. Eventually, I started telling the story out loud. I completely forgot it was only in my imagination until I was about 25 and it popped in my head that this favorite childhood memory was completely fabricated. Pathetic, but true. My dad always fudged his age a little bit, to the point he forgot his real age. We had his birthday party and he said, "I can't believe I'm 55. My grandma thought for a second and said, "You're 56 inches. So, in his head at least, he gained 2 years on that birthday. My mom was born in a village where they didn't keep concrete birth records, so when she moved to America, she just picked a random birth date. The funny thing is that she has a twin brother who, legally, has a different birthday, so they always argue when to have birthday parties. I was stabbed in my lower abdomen with a 1-inch wide knife when I used to live in a sketchy neighborhood. I really did live in a bad neighborhood, but pretty sure I had my appendix taken out too. They stabbed you and took your appendix. Dang dude, that rough. I sometimes forget my real name and go by my nickname, which I gave myself because people struggled so much with my real name. They think I'm from Arab descent when I tell them my real name. So I made up a nickname for myself and now people know me as that. I'm Caribbean with an Arabic name. My mom is white and my dad is black. I live in the Netherlands. Sometimes people hate me for no reason because they think I'm Arabic. When they find out I'm just a brown person with an Arabic name, they're all cool with it. That I'm a hypochondriac. I always find a way to convince myself something's wrong with me, then admit defeat and wait to die. I don't want to go to a specialist to confirm I'm a hypochondriac because I think that might just seal the deal on its own. I'm positive I'm a hypochondriac. Seriously, I have like all the signs. I keep telling myself that I'm going to get my act together and succeed, but then in the back of my mind I believe I will end up successful in the end anyway. Both are lies. The first can lead to the second, but I cannot motivate myself to better my life. I know work now, play later, but I don't want to put in the work. I want to be motivated but don't know how. Just remember, if you go by other people's definition of success, then the motivation doesn't come from you. You have little time to find your success, so don't waste it by following others' desires. My uncle started lying about his age when he was 16 in order to get into bars. Drinking age was 18 at the time. 20 years later, my aunt found his birth certificate that showed him to be 2 years younger than he said he was. He'd been lying for so long that he forgot it was a lie. I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me. The age at which I lost my virginity. I was very embarrassed that I hadn't popped my cherry until the age of 22, so I told my new OBGYN that I'd lost it at 16. Then he starts going on about all the precautions I should take since I started having physical relationships very early. Now I'm too deep into the lie to fix it. I now know that he honestly wouldn't give a flying frick whatever age I started having physical relationships. I'm not sure why I was embarrassed in the first place. I'm not sure if I'm actually in love with my girlfriend or whether I'm just used to having her around. Ouch, this one hits close to home. I don't really know how to pronounce my last name. It's really Hispanic and hyphenated and I think I'm supposed to roll the R, but people pronounce it wrong at me if they took a year of Spanish, and after hearing it so much, I'm kind of confused. So now I pronounce it how I want, and when I say it to people they look at me like, what? Because they didn't know that I was foreign. Because I'm not. My dad is. I can't pronounce my first name correctly after having moved from San Francisco to Dallas. The vowels get mangled and the R takes up the whole mouth. I was freaking 15 when I moved, but I'm 27 now. Not really a lipo, but I have a twin sister, and after years of telling the same stories, I can't remember if the story I'm telling happened to her or me. Twin who came to post this. Thank God it's not just us. That my now ex-boyfriend and I made love. We tried and it was just too painful for me. I told my friends I had made love and everyone else just assumed that after 3 years together we had. I ran with it and would often completely forget that I was technically still a virgin years into what was otherwise a fairly physical relationship. I think that I once made up this part of a Bill Nye episode to sound funny when I was telling a friend about it, but now I don't remember if it actually happened on the show or not. I will do it later. There was this girl in my school who had a huge crush on me. We were in the same class, aged around 11-12. I didn't really have any attraction to her at all or want a girlfriend. One day her friends, 3 of them, came up to me when I was sitting on a table during break, and 2 held my arms and 1 held my head, and she came running through and kissed me on the lips. I still can't tell if I dreamt that or not, though I am 75% sure it happened. No means no. My engagement ring was designed by my husband and I had no idea he had a ring when he proposed. So romantic, fit my taste perfectly and quite the surprise. Truth, I designed it with the custom jeweler. I honestly forget the truth sometimes. I picked out my engagement ring and ordered it 3 months before we got engaged. They say that you love your family. Sure, you dislike them at times, but you'll always love them no matter what. I can't say I agree with that. I don't want him, we're not compatible, I don't love him. I know I told myself that a lot 2 years ago. Frankly, I don't know what I want. I used to hang around with a group of people a few years older than myself, which required me to say I was 3 years older than I was. Long hair and makeup really age you. I still struggle to remember my real age after keeping that lie going for so many years. They became my best friends and it became one of those lies that you keep up too long to come clean on. Sadly I moved and lost touch with them. Annoyingly, my age is brought up regularly, as since cutting my hair and no longer wearing makeup, I apparently look 12 not 23. Oh, and my fake 18th birthday was so much better than my real 18th. I have quite opposite actually. I am absolutely certain I am not lying, but the stubbornness of others to believe me makes me question myself. I remember my parents got me and my sister both a chocolate bar. I ate mine and left my sister's in the drawer. Later in the day they find my sister's chocolate bar and someone has taken a bite out of it. They automatically blamed me, yet I did not do it. Cause if I had, I am sure I would have remembered it. I still have no clue who actually bit the chocolate, but everyone still believes it was me. This must have been at least 10 years ago. It has bothered me for so long, cause I know I didn't do it, but no one believes me, except of course the person who did it but is too chicken to say it. When I was about 5 or 6, my brother had an Eminem CD that someone scratched Eminem into the bottom of. I still get the blame for that, and it was over 15 years ago. I don't know who did it, but I know it wasn't me, mainly because I was 5 or 6 and didn't know how to spell Eminem, let alone what kind of CD it was. I'm convinced it was my older sister trying to get me in trouble. That I am actually taking good enough care of my body. Nights here and there of eating so much crap and getting drunk are probably hurting me more than the occasional run and salad are helping. This is going to get buried. That I only have one kid. I got pregnant when I was 15. I gave birth to a beautiful baby girl when I was 16 years old. My boyfriend and I worked, went to school, and raised a kid together. We both got into an amazing college about 5 hours away from home. 2 months before we were planning on moving, our daughter started wheezing. I took her to her pediatrician. He wrote me a prescription and sent us home. A week later, she turned blue. We called 911. We end up in a children's hospital. The doctors don't know what's wrong. Specialists don't know what's wrong. 11 days after being admitted, her heart stops. We ultimately make the decision to tail her off life support. We bury our daughter in our tiny hometown. We move away, and we cut off contact with everyone except our families. We don't talk about our daughter except with our therapist. We tell ourselves that we are moving on. We went through all it. Too much to talk about. But 7 years later, we have a son. I remember a while ago I convinced everyone I had an iPhone 4S. At the time it was new, and that the only reason I was using my crappy first gen iPhone was because I was worried about the 4S. After a while of this, a friend's phone broke and asked if he could use my crappy one for a while. I agreed, actually thinking I had a 4S. When I got home, I realized how much of a dumbass I was. That I'm happy. I put on a happy face, and I'm constantly making people laugh. For some friends they only know me as always upbeat. Meanwhile, I'm not that happy. I think about things I shouldn't, and it gets me down. This happens constantly. I also have a wicked temper I hide because I don't want people to be nervous or freaked out. People on my dorm have been calling me by another name, my dad's. And sometimes when people ask my name I start to struggle and have to think for a moment which one I have to tell them. It's usually my dad's name when in college and my real one at home. That I never had the chicken pox. I remember my sister and father getting them when I was a kid, and that my mom had me take oatmeal baths and sleep in the same bed as my sister so I could catch them. But I don't remember ever having them. My mom used to say I had never had them and should be careful, so that's what I told people for years. Just this year my mom told me you had the chicken pox when your sister did. Now I don't know what to believe. I continue to tell people I've never had them and I really don't think I have. Parents forget crap all the time once you're no longer wholly dependent on them. Freaking casuals, man. As an icebreaker when I'm babysitting a preteen girl or just need a fun fact for a young kid, I tell them I once high-fived Zac Efron. Truth is, I was there at the Today Show and he ran by the crowd giving high fives. I was in the front row, but thinking back on it, he probably ran by the chubby little boy, me, and in favor of the screaming girls who had actually watched his movies. That everything will be fine every 2 years. That I was created in a petri dish. I have no idea if it's true or not. Just heard a hint about IVF a while ago. Think I asked my mum once, and she said no. Yet still I perpetuate my own little creation myth. Just makes me feel cool, I guess. That's coolest delusion I've read here. I wish I thought I was made in a petri dish. That I don't look so bad to other people than to myself. Maybe it's just because of my own insecurities which negatively influence my perception. And then your mother and I dropped out of school together and moved to Boston together, and I joined AmeriCorps to get my shit together while she worked in a bookstore. Somewhere deep in the back of my mind I have vague and haunting fragments that led me to suspicions that there is a really different version of the story in the real world. An anxiety attack on acid that ended in hospitalization, being banned from the college, hiding out in her dorm room for a few months while she smuggled me food from the dining hall, an attempted move to another college community that failed when my father wouldn't co-sign the lease, going home again to live in my parents' basement while their marriage was falling apart, 6 months where she was home with her parents in Vermont and I lived in a crummy rat-infested apartment where I slept with a half-dozen nice girls curious about the slum life before she moved to Boston with me and we started over again. The girls are all vivid in my mind, but I genuinely can't remember much else from the above paragraph. Instead, I have a journal that recites it, and I swear, when I read it, it sounds like someone else's story. And when I tell the story to my kids, it all sounds so clean and perfect, it's easy to believe we've been together since that first day of college. Almost nothing in my life has gone according to plan, but I tell myself to remain optimistic for the future. That I broke my skull getting hit by a car. I left the hospital before I was seen because I just wanted to go home and sleep. There is definitely a small area of my eye socket missing not there. Oh, you should get that checked out. That I've been in love. In secondary school there used to be a classmate who wouldn't let me be and who claimed to be in love with me, which I regarded as a very interesting and curious thing at the time. So I thought that naturally I reciprocate. Now every time I talk, casually or not, about love I realize that I might never have fallen in love, not then, not ever since. And when people seem interested in me that way I think I reciprocate because I'm curious what would happen, not because I really do. That I'm gonna be fine without her and that I'm better off without her. People kept telling me that for so long that I started believing it, but deep inside me I will always love her, comma. I have freedom and liberty to do whatever the heck I want to do. That's the spirit. Don't let anything hold you back. That I actually graduated college. 3 weeks before finals my longtime girlfriend of 6 years left me, so I said frick it and took so many drugs. Ended up sleeping in and missing 2 exams. Told my parents I graduated and all my friends think the same. Even my current employer believe I graduated. That I'm not B. Growing up, I played doctor with a little girl, not boy. I had just as many crushes on females as males. But I grew up in the Bible Belt with traditional parents, so I have only ever dated guys. I'm currently engaged to a wonderful and very attractive man. I do enjoy both genders in my watching though. You have been visited by the money bird. It'll bring you good fortune, but only if you subscribe in 42 seconds or less. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check out another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.